Yeah, all right.
So, what's the sitting arrangement? Who's guiding us?
CEO, how are you, sir? Sharp, sharp. Sure. Okay, are we good to start? Okay, I think we're good to start. Colleagues from the media, good morning, and welcome to the Road Accident Fund. My name is Ayabonga Cawe. I will be facilitating our discussion this morning with the Minister, the Director General, and the Board Chair and the CEO from the Road Accident Fund. I think many of us would be familiar with the work that the Road Accident Fund does and the important role that it plays, I think, in smoothing the lifestyle and income and other health impacts of road accidents that we have in our society. And so, in a sense, it's a very critical institution. And today, and the Minister will tell us a bit more about, I guess, the purpose of our briefing in the next few minutes or so. But suffice to say, I think today is also about giving you an opportunity at some stage in our program to also pose some of your questions, and we'll certainly give and signal when that opportunity is due. So, without much further delay, because we have also started slightly late, I would like to call up Minister Fikile Mbalula to just give us a sense of the purpose of our briefing this morning, but also to touch on some of the mandate, policy, and other issues that I guess arise from that. Minister Mbalula?
Thank you, Aya. Sorry. I'm quick and fast. Thank you very much, Acting Director General, Mr. Mthunzi Madia, Chairperson of the Road Accident Fund, Ms. Thembelihle Msibi, members of the RAF board with us here today, Chief Executive Officer of the RAF, Mr. Collins Litswalo, ladies and gentlemen of the media. The Road Accident Fund was established to provide compensation for loss or damage wrongfully caused on the road. The compensation is to provide relief to those whose livelihoods have been disrupted or lives lost as consequence of crash on the road. There is no better articulation of the mandate of RAF than the words of Judge Meyer when he handed down judgment on a matter of the writs of execution against the RAF on the 9th of April 2021. In granting the temporary stay as a necessary measure to obviate the implosion of the RAF, which will trigger a constitutional crisis, Judge Meyer said, I quote, "No imagination is required to fathom the likely dire situation of thousands of injured, uncompensated road accident victims. The social security net for all road users and their dependents will then fall away," close quote. we have been emphatic that the words of the judge aptly captured the magnitude of the crisis at hand, which reinforced our intent to move with speed and resolute determination in not only turning the tide, but in ushering in a sustainable policy trajectory insofar as compensation for victims of road traffic accidents are concerned. The final report of the Satchwell Commission on Road Accident Fund in 2002 set the scene for policy review in relation to compensation resulting from road crashes. The Commission was incisive in its analysis of the RAF scheme and its predecessors. Over the years, despite legislative interventions and appointment of 7 commissions of inquiry, 7 commissions of inquiry, the system has failed to achieve its objectives. One of the main reasons for the failure of the system is that since its commencement, the basis of the compensation system introduced by the Motor Vehicle Accident Act of 1984 has remained relatively unchanged. Despite numerous legislative interventions to change certain liability provisions in the law, the RAF currently administers the fault-based MVA compensation system, which it inherited from its predecessors in terms of the Road Accident Fund Act. The RAF pays compensation to injured road users for personal bodily injuries and pays compensation to dependents of breadwinners that have been killed in motor vehicle accidents. The existing fault-based system was the subject of 1998 White Paper on the Road Accident Fund and was investigated by the Satchwell Commission in 2002. In its final report, the Commission described the system as unreasonable, inequitable, unaffordable, and unsustainable. It was on the basis of the findings and recommendations of the Satchwell Commission that Cabinet approved the policy for the Road Accident Benefit Scheme referred to as RAPS on 7 September 2011, effectively replacing the 1998 White Paper on RAF. This is South Africa's national policy, which unambiguously requires of us to integrate the social insurance provided by RAF into the country's overall social security system. The policy reasons that the structure of the current system encourages perverse incentives. There is no financial incentive for injured accident victims to return to work or to undergo rehabilitation. A major driving force under the current system is to attempt to present the claimant to the RAF as a permanently disabled and maimed person, irrespective of the actual condition, whose capacity for earning an income and living a quality life has been irretrievably harmed. This is done in an attempt to secure the highest possible monetary reward from public funds. This policy proposes that the RAPs should provide a scheme of structured and defined benefits to those seriously affected by road accidents in accordance with social insurance principles and not liability insurance principles. By not providing a benefit to the full extent of the loss, RAPs will encourage the injured person to return to work and will reduce a culture of dependency. It was for this reason that we proposed the transformation of the RAF through the RAPs bill, which was meant to give practical expression to the vision of the current policy. The current policy promotes equitable social safety net, accountability for road accident victims in South Africa. The RAPs bill was rejected by Parliament in 2002 and the process to reintroduce the legislation will address the issues that led to its rejection. On an annual basis, I conclude a performance agreement with the board of the RAF. This agreement identifies priorities for the year, which are included in the entity's annual performance plan. The agreement signed with the board for the 2021-22 financial year include the following priorities: approval and implementation of a new business operating model, settling of new personal claims within 120 days, accelerating settling of claims that are 3 years and older, reduction of legal costs, implementing prescribed medical tariffs, develop medical treatment protocols, implement measures to enhance the current system, improve financial sustainability. And that is why we are here today. And the CEO and the chairperson of the board and the board in general will give an update in relation to the developments, which some may be constrained by the court processes that RAF has embarked upon, which they have fully briefed the minister about. And I've had an opportunity to engage with regard to this process, and at the same time try to say, can we have mediation and resolve this matter outside court processes? Unfortunately, we have been unable to do so. But the reason for RAF proceeding to court, the board and the CEO will be able to give adequate reasons to you. And it is unprecedented because when you take the AG to court, people think that cannot be done. But these things get to be done in a democratic country like ours, and in safeguarding national interest and so on. We must understand the context of the interventions we are implementing to turn the RAF around and ensure its sustainability. The RAF has operated on a financially unsustainable model for a number of decades. We have a debt here that we can't account for, and we must accept it. And I've appointed a new board, which is very efficient in my own eyes, and with regard to what they will say, you will also see. This place was wrecked, and it's the second time we have a press conference here. It was a total disaster when we came in. And Letswalo has been fighting battles. It's not a nice place to be at. And I took him as one of the best I have in the Department of Transport and deployed him here because I know he will get the job done. And he's not been walking on roses. He's fighting, he's been fought. But the battle is engaged in with the board. They understand it is on behalf of South Africans and the poorest of the poor. The people who must get assistance out of RAF. And they've been rough themselves, as RAF says, in terms of dealing with the situation. We don't have friends, unfortunately, in many places. And today we'll debunk the lies and the myth, and they will speak for themselves that we are in favor of this and that. So when we talk about the financial position, it is unfortunate that we have to go this route, and that they have to go this route in terms of the AG. My desire is that these issues can be resolved outside the courts, and then we find each other in terms of standards and in terms of the bodies for checks and balances that they resolve on these particular matters. But nobody is going to die, and there will be no floor, there will be no blood on the floor. At the end of the day, a review is a review if we can't find each other on the policy matters. And then we defer to the courts to intervene. That is what it is important. The RAF has operated, like I said, on a financially unsustainable model for a number of decades. There has not been a nexus between the fuel levy and the number of accidents that occur on public roads. However, to exacerbate this challenge, there has been the ever-increasing administrative costs of the RAF scheme. Of the revenue RAF collects, more than 17 billion rand, or 40% of this goes to administrative costs. I want to repeat, of the revenue RAF collects, more than 17 billion rand, or 40% of this goes to administrative costs, with only 26 billion, or 60% is actually received by claimants. Currently, the RAF biggest cost driver is the number of road accidents that occur on public roads daily. Bringing RAF back to financial stability requires both a regulatory overhaul and operational improvement. The regulatory overhaul is mandated by the RAPS policy, which requires of us to complete the transformation of the RAF into a benefit scheme that is fully integrated into the broader social security net. We have given the green light to the board to move with speed in adopting a new business operating model. You were here when I was briefing you about that. And I went to Parliament. I as well went to Cabinet. And I did brief you that we have this operating model, and then for us to implement that fully, it means that it must pass through the AG and all of that. And we have had the green light from PwC, and not through the stroke of a pen. That policy was amended and implemented by PwC. But whether that is an opinion or what, it's a matter that we can clarify in the courts. But I've seen that. To illustrate the quantum of the challenge that stifles the RAF from the effective implementation of its mandate of the 41 billion fuel levy it receives, 10.6 billion goes towards legal costs. 10.6 billion goes towards legal costs. And some of the people who are injured don't even get the share of the lion's share of this money. It goes to the lawyers. So you see people driving expensive cars here. Is money of RAF. And that is the truth, you must know. And half of that money does not go to the beneficiaries in this country. It goes to individuals, to law firms, and all of that. We are straightening that up in terms of the law. And that is the mandate I've given to this board to implement. And they've got that mandate to implement. It is for the on behalf of South Africa. We have been ripped off and ripping ourselves off through a scheme that we need to straighten up. Now, when you deal with transformation and changing things, you don't walk on roses. You don't walk on roses. You walk through a path which, long after you are gone, people will thank you. This is not a country of cowardice. We stand for principle. And that is what we do, and we are accountable. So we're not running a spaza shop. In some instances, operations within RAF are suspended due to the attorneys attaching some of the RAF's assets. I've also, in terms of the National Department, been a victim of this. You have seen in the press and all of that. These are the things that actually happened. The provision of medical attention is also a problem due to lack of harmonization and standardization of medical attention rendered to road accident victims. It is for this reason that this matter is part of the priorities we have agreed the board must give focused attention. We have also identified a need to deal with money spent on providing for medical attention to victims of car crashes. From a policy perspective, this will be achieved by prescribing a set and standardized medical tariffs that victims of accidents submit to the fund as a result of motor vehicle accidents. There is no doubt that the current system is inequitable. This is because the payment of damages, loss of earnings, and general damages per individual are assessed in relation to the person's earning capacity and potential earning capabilities, which is disproportionate to those that are deemed to have or be able to reach that earning capacity. Inefficiencies in the claims administration process is attributed to disputes being declared by both the plaintiff and RAF attorneys solely to drag and prolong the settlement of the claim. The tactic has the effect of the legal cost being incurred, even when it was not necessary to incur those costs. The drivers of this inefficiency are both internal operations at RAF and unprincipled legal practitioners. In conclusion, the dire financial situation of the RAF requires of us to find creative ways to ensure that the taxpayer receives value on the investment they make through the fuel levy, without abdicating our responsibility to provide a social security net to those affected by road accidents. I will now invite the chairperson of the board, Ms. Thembelihle Msibi, followed by the CEO, Mr. Collins Letswalo. They will unpack the progress made in improving the fortunes of RAF, in line with the mandate I have given the board, and progress in implementing the new model aimed at ensuring that victims of car crashes are the real beneficiaries. So I'm happy, and I want to thank the media for being here, because a lot of things have been written about RAF, that they are hiding 300 billion, they are trouble, we are running a spaza shop. Even a spaza shop is better. We are running something that we don't understand what we are doing. But those who've got access to the media are bad-mouthing, but we are not bad-mouthing. We are here to account. So you are here as the media, ask any question. Where we can't answer because it's a legal process, we'll be given guidance. But the board is here. I've brought Letswalo himself. You see, he's got a new suit for this occasion. So because I've said to them, we are running this thing on behalf of the people of South Africa. When we are questioned, we must not run away. We must answer. We don't work under anonymous reports, sources. No. We must be attended to if the need arises. And then we must account in relation to what is our mandate. Chairperson, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, MC. Thank you, Honorable Minister, and good morning to the Minister, Acting DG, fellow board members, CEO and executives of the RAF, and ladies and gentlemen of the media. When the RAF board was appointed towards the end of the 2019-2020 financial year, we inherited a financially unsustainable fund with a highly ineffective operating model. The fund had been technically insolvent since 1981. Some of the operational challenges included the following. The design of the RAF scheme was unsustainable. The benefits offered were and still are much more costly than the funding that is available for the scheme through fuel levies, and there is no nexus between the revenue and the cost components of the funding. As a result, the outstanding claims were increasing year on year due to the registration of claims and slow settlement. During the 2018-2019 financial year, these had increased by 26%. The operating model we inherited was anchored in litigation. This resulted in a highly litigious environment, which resulted in high administrative costs and contributed to delays in the settlement of claims. During the 2018-2019 financial year, the average RAF administrative costs had increased by 16% year on year to 10.3 billion rands, with 7 billion accounting for the legal costs. The RAF medical costs had increased by 45% in that same financial year. The RAF claims liability had increased by 26%, and the requested but not yet paid component had increased by 24% during the 2018-2019 financial year. The average claims settlement values were increased by around 10% year on year. This was driven mainly by inefficiencies and fraud. Business processes were highly manual and with a poor ICT infrastructure environment. In giving us the mandate, the minister was unequivocal in that we needed to turn around the RAF and ensure that it is a sustainable entity. Some of the objectives he assigned the board included reducing legal costs, reviewing the operational model, and digitizing the claims management process, as he's already indicated. We proceeded to develop the 2020-2025 RAF strategy, a 5-year strategy, as part of the turnaround plan for the fund. The strategy is anchored on expediting settlement of claims and building a customer-centric organization. The key strategic outcomes included, these were of course in response to the minister's stated objectives, were the development and implementation of a new operating model, settlement of all new claims within 120 days, reduction of legal and medical costs, development and implementation of the RAF medical tariffs and medical treatment protocols, implementation of an integrated claims management system. This would improve efficiency in claims processing and also help with the prevention and detection of fraud. Review of the RAF organizational structure to ensure that it was fit for purpose and to conduct a comprehensive skills audit. Almost 2 financial years into the strategy, we have made great strides towards addressing the legacy challenges of the RAF. The following are some of the notable achievements from the 2020-2021 financial year. We managed to finalize our inputs into the RAF Act amendment proposals. A key input is the amendment proposal for an annualized payment. This would replace the lump sum payment. I'm sure quite a few of us in this gathering are familiar with the show I Blew It, and quite a number of them are from the RAF payouts, and how people would get probably about 4 million, and within a year, they've blown it. And so this would also help us in terms of dealing with that challenge, because those same people then come back into the government system and try and get some other benefits. We will be formally publishing the final RAF tariffs for implementation before the 31st of March in 2022. We are at an advanced stage of onboarding an implementation partner on the digitization of the claims management system for the RAF. This ICMS tender had been published on the 26th of February last year. We embarked on the review of the organizational structure for the RAF to ensure that it is fit for purpose. To this end, we have finalized the macro structure and finalized the appointment of the CEO and CFO, with other key executives to follow. The RAF saw a significant reduction in administrative costs during the 2020-2021 financial year. Okay. Particularly the legal costs reduced by just over 40%, moving down to 3.9 billion. As you would recall, we found this at 7 billion in the 2018-2019 financial year. We achieved a clean audit for the year 2019 to 2020. Although challenges still remain with the settlement of claims within 120 days, we are confident that the implementation of the minimum requirements for claims lodgement and the integrated claims management system will assist in expediting claims settlements. To ensure that the public is fully informed of these changes, the RAF has embarked on a stakeholder engagement process. The first stakeholder engagement was held in Gauteng this past Tuesday. This will be rolled out to other provinces in the coming weeks. On the issue of the current litigation, we have been briefed by our legal team not to discuss it. However, we can safely say that we tried to manage and resolve the matter without going to court but were unsuccessful. We hold the office of the AG in high regard, and I think this needs to come across. Just because we are having litigation in one particular issue, it does not mean that we cannot work with the office of the AG, and we do not want to work with the office of the AG. So we hold this office in high regard. We will continue to work with the office of the AG as we are expected to under the laws of the country. I thank you. I will now hand over to the CEO to take us into fuller details on some of the achievements I have highlighted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, the Acting Director General of the Department of Transport, the Chairperson of the Road Accident Fund, and members of the board present here, members of the media and fellow South Africans. Good morning. I'm standing once again in front of you here in my new suit to brief you on the developments of the Road Accident Fund and the progress on the new model that we initiated close to about 2 years ago. Like any new model and the change that are brought in the quest to bring transformation, we have experienced both successes and setbacks. However, we are happy to report that we have had more progress and that we have experienced challenges. We were able to develop solutions that take us forward and ensure transformation of the Road Accident Fund. South Africans will recall that when we embarked on this strategy, it was a two-pronged strategy in this transformation, that is changing the current system by amending the RAF Act with a view to change to the RAP system in the near future, in line with the policy that the Minister has already alluded to, and that has already been published in 2011. We all know that RAP's bill could not proceed as envisaged, and that is required by abolition of the delictual-based scheme, which is fault-based. The perverse incentive that comes with such a scheme and the provisions of Section 19 of the RAF Act, which requires that one uses an attorney in lodging a represented claim, makes the system litigious and administratively cumbersome. It also does not encourage expeditious settlement of claims, which result in long administrative costs driven mostly by legal costs. We have, over the past 2 years, stratified our liability book and in the process reduced administrative costs. We have brought in a proper queuing of our claims and ensuring that we pay the oldest debts first. We have embarked on a project to address the backlog both of represented claims and direct claims. We did this while trying to finalize new claims within 120 days, and that obviously created a difficulty of balancing the two processes. This just means that you had new claims that were coming in that were supposed to be finalized in 120 days, when you had long outstanding claims that had not been finalized. So we had to balance that. We then discovered, to our dismay, that at least 90% of all claims do not have the required information for RAF to be able to make an offer and therefore settle the claim in time. It is now clear that the lack of minimum information requirement has made the system unworkable and that the reasons for the delay of the settlement of the claims. The direct claims had in the main been dormant, with claimants not coming through and us not being able to trace them. These developments are creating headwinds in our transformation journey, which blindsided us when we envisioned this new model. However, we are clear that these challenges will not deter us from achieving the transformation agenda that we have embarked on. We have also faced a massive resistance and pushback from those that benefited from the past inefficiencies of the RAF. Those that benefited from not only the corruption but the past practices that we found unsustainable, like what was known as fixed allocations. This was meant for big law firms and probably medium firms that put enough pressure on RAF to be paid first, notwithstanding the age of their debt. This resulted in fragmented RNYP, requested but not yet paid book, that some claimants owed more than 1,000 days in debt, while some, mostly big law firms, owed less than 30 days in debt. We then embarked on the payment plan to pay debt within 180 days and started with older claims first. We encountered a backlash from those that used to get as much as 100 million of fixed allocation a month from a rough 3.5 billion monthly fuel levy income. We approached the court for a reprieve in terms of Rule 45A, as already alluded to by both the minister and the chairperson, to suspend the court orders in order for us to allow proper stratification of this liability book. We also in the process picked up duplicate payments that were paid to law firms and started collection of these duplicate payments. Unfortunately, this development has pitted us against the representatives of the claimant, and there is a lot of information that is being peddled to create the impression of an implosion at the RAF. We have decided that we have to be more transparent and ensure that we keep our stakeholders closer and more informed about the development during the transformation journey. This will allow for stakeholders not only to understand the reasoning behind the decisions that we take, but also the contribution to be contributors to the solutions in the transformation journey. As part of this transparency, we have decided to release the top 20 law firms that have been paid and the amount paid and the aging of that debt today. This will enable South Africans to know that nothing at the RAF is of any individual or any nepotism will be easily identified. We will be releasing this list every quarter in the interest of transparency. We will further enable South Africans to hold us accountable to our commitment to introducing a more equitable payment system based on prioritizing the oldest debt in line with our 180-day payment strategy. I want to list all these law firms for you to know. From the 1st of April 2021 to the 2nd of March 2022, the following law firms were paid, and these were the figures that they were paid and the average days of settlement of these payments. Number 1 is Kruger and Company at 395 million. Number 2 is Nandu and Associate at 394 million. And number 3 is A. Volmaras Incorporated at 348 million. Number 4 is Gerdnel Progoriers at 332 million. Savage and Joste Adams Incorporated at number 5 at 331 million. VZLR Incorporated at 315 million. Sprite Incorporated at 302 million. Mpila and Associates at 265 million. Adams and Adams Pretoria at 257 million. De Vries Shield Incorporated at 244 million. Chwenia Tennis at 230 million. Franz Kitte and Posa at White River, the law firm, 229 million. Msamo Attorneys at 205 million. De Sosa AC at 203 million. Lobart and Creek at 202 million. M. Kruger and Pottinger at 199 million. Detroit Haveman and Lloyd at 191 million. Adendorf Incorporated at 181 million. Chochinchi Attorneys at 175 million. And Federal Incorporated at 174 million. That's the top 20. That is on capital payments. They range from an average of 321 days on average. That is Sprite Incorporated, because at that time they owed us money in duplicates and we didn't pay them, and we had kept some money until they paid us, to about 166 days on average. Then we have got cost payments. This is our costs that are paid to these attorneys. Number 1 on the cost payment schedule was Franz Kitte Posa of White River, 87 million. VZLR Incorporated, 83 million. Sprite Incorporated at 81 million. Adams and Adams Pretoria at 79 million. Gerdnel Procurators at 66 million. Van Nickers Attorneys at 62 million. Savage Jost and Adams Incorporated, 62 million. Gelden Hayes Malachi at 49.3 million. Mpila and Associates at 45 million. Edeleng Van Nickert Incorporated, 44 million. Chwenia Attorneys at 44 million. DeVries Shields shared at 42 million, Salome Leroux Progress at 38 million, Kruger and Company at 36 million, McRoberts Incorporated at 32 million, A. Volksmarans Incorporated 31 million, DeSosa AC at 30 million, SQ Martin and Adrian Incorporated Attorneys at 30 million, Marias Basson Incorporated at 29 million, Adendorf Incorporated at 28 million. And these payments were also on average around 170 to 180 days. So those are the law firms that have been paid at Road Accident Fund in line with our new schedule. And having regard to that, I think it's important, Minister, that we address this misinformation that is in the domain of the media, certainly in regard to the so-called anonymous letter doing rounds in the social media and reported by some media publications, which seems to suggest that my friends are given preference and paid first at the Road Accident Fund. I have no friend in this top 20, nor any other. It is in this list that claims were purportedly settled and paid in a period of a week. I must categorically state that I have no such a friend, and my declarations of interest are clear. So I declare every year who is my friend who's doing business with RAF, if there is any, and those declarations are there. I have no knowledge of this Radipabe Attorneys and who runs that law firm. It is fashioned in a way, Radipabe. It is fashioned in this way because I suspect the fact that the law firm settled this matter in Limpopo, which is my home province, must raise eyebrows and make the allegations believable. I then asked for our forensic investigation to investigate this, and what we have found that the matter was settled purportedly in August 2021, and the payment was made 163 days later in January, making it in line with what RAF payment strategies. We are going to release this court order indicating the court stamp on which this court order was stamped. We are not going to stop here, Minister. We have asked that the forensic confirmation of this court order must be done to ensure that it's not a fraudulent court order, like we have had fraudulent court orders in the past. So we will leave no stone unturned in ensuring that we get the bottom of these allegations. The aim must not be to harass other law firms in the name of those that used to get close to $1 billion a year from RAF. And now you can see the numbers. They are nowhere close to that, Minister, and that is creating a lot of problems. We are also happy, Minister, that SIU has started their investigation. We are giving them our full cooperation. We welcome this investigation as it will help us not only to uncover any graft at the Road Accident Fund, but we potentially that we can recover monies that were corruptly siphoned from RAF over the past years. There is also a matter that has been dealt with, and I think as the Executive Management Minister, we support the views that are expressed by the chairperson and yourselves about the strength, the need for good governance and accountability, and the role that is played by the AGSA. We respect this office. We'll continue to work with this office, and we will implement the recommendations that they've given us, and we continue to do that in the interest of good governance and accountability. We, Minister, would like to thank yourself, the department, the board, and everybody else in South Africa who has supported us through this journey. It has not been an easy one. We are enemies of people that want no progress in this transformation. We know why they say the things they say, but we are undeterred, Minister. We are going to turn around the RAF. We will surely make RAF a better place, and I think posterity will vindicate us. Thank you so much.
I see somebody at the back was wanting to clap, CEO. Certainly moved by your remarks. Thank you very much to the Minister, the Board Chair, and to the CEO for those remarks. We also do have on my far right Mr. Mthunzi Madia, who is the Acting Director General in the Department of Transport. And if there are any questions that I guess might be posed to him as well, he is on hand to respond to some of those. But maybe before we get into some of the questions that colleagues from the media might have, there might be a few areas of emphasis that might benefit, I guess, from re-elaboration. And I think it might be helpful as we just do a brief panel to maybe unpack some of those and elaborate a bit further on some of what might have been mentioned, which might give the colleagues in the media an opportunity maybe to pick up some of those issues. And I think one of them, insofar as your remarks, Minister, are concerned, has to do with the shareholder compact and the performance agreements that you've gone into with entities, and in particular the Road Accident Fund. And I think many of our colleagues would be interested in the role that the executive authority plays in those compacts. What is expected of the Department of Transport insofar as that is concerned? But more importantly, what would also be the role of the entity itself insofar as the key performance areas are concerned, and I guess in the context of the new operating model. So, Minister, I think if you can give us a brief response on that, and then we'll take a look at a few other areas as well. I say Bensley.
It's just for us.
Oh, okay. Just for vibes.
I was going to suggest, Aya, that
Yeah.
let's give
Sure.
the media first
An opportunity.
an
Okay.
opportunity to ask questions, and then we'll respond, and we can elaborate further, because we've spoken for a very long time and they've been taking notes. So I'm afraid that they might skip some of the things. Yeah.
That's fine, then, Minister. So if you can hold on to that microphone so that you can respond to that, because it seems the one in front of you is just for vibes. And what we might want to then do, if colleagues can just raise their hand, please tell us the media house that you are from, and also, I guess, the questions that you have. So I can see 1, 2, 3. There's a pillar in front of me, so I can't see if there are any other questions behind that. But let's take the questions. Please, your name and the media house that you're from.
Minister, my question is in regards to the ongoing case between the RAF and the AG. I understand that this is already within the courts, so you're not restricted as to what you can say, but what can you say in terms of what's happening right now? Where is the case at already, and what's the way forward?
Okay, Dayezo?
Rayezo from Hawaii. Minister, if I remember correctly also, the last briefing you had a list of law firms that, for lack of a better word, you were trying to blacklist or that were causing problems, and you were trying to deal with them.
We'll note, we'll come there to answer. Okay. Yeah.
Where are you in terms of those of identifying those law firms that were a problem for the RAF? I think at some point the CEO mentioned that you would find that they had insider information, if you like. They were working with people inside, and you were trying to get them out of the system because it was a problem. Where are you regarding dealing with law firms that were defrauding the Road Accident Fund, for a lack of a better word?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Upuleli Treaty Jones from ENCA. Just maybe to the CEO, you said that you've received backlash from those that benefited, I think, more than 100 million. How severe has this pushback been? And has it also hampered the move to a better word of transparency and transformation at RAF? And maybe just a last question, you said that the SIU has also started its investigations to recover money that was siphoned through the means of corruption. Do you have an idea maybe when we can expect a report that will look into the type of criminal activities that are taking place within RAF? Thank you.
Thank you. We had an extra hand, or? Okay. Minister, let's take those 3 questions, and then if there are any others, we'll come back to our colleagues in the media.
They belong to RAF, those questions.
The issue with the AG is practically about the application of accounting policy. We in the past have used what was called IFRS 4 to account for our liability. In 2020, the International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board issued a new standard for social benefit, as rough as a social benefit. We use this in line with GRAP 3 to develop our new accounting policy in line with that. So that's the only difference we have with the AG. Nothing much, nothing less. Our view is that GRAP 3 allows us the right to do so. It says management shall use its judgment as it is. Paragraph 10 thereof. So I think it's paragraph 8, yes, thereof. So we have used that, and the minister says there is a PwC issue. The PwC did a review. The decision was ours. So we took a decision as people that understand finance and understand accounting to do what had to be done in line with GRAP 3, working together with everybody involved. And we arrived at a conclusion that IPSAS 42 is a standard that we must use. And of course, that's the difference we are having with the AG on it. That's the long and short of what we did. It's part A and part B. Part A was saying the AG must not publish this report until such time that is reviewed. I think it's only fair that they wait for the court, and the court must determine whether we are right or they are right, and then we can move from that basis. It is only that aspect of the report that we disagree with and that we need a review on. But on other matters of governance and all those issues, we are quite clear that we work with the AG on those matters. And where they've made recommendations, we will keep on implementing those. So the part A was ahead, and we are appealing that part because we still believe that there must be an interdict, and the part B will be done as agreed on an expedited basis. We hope that it will be either this month or the next month so that we can move forward with all these things. The identification of law firms. Yes, we have identified law firms, but at that time it was about duplicate payments. I have said in one of the firms, I think it was Sprayed Incorporated, you would see that we retained funds that were due to Sprayed on the basis that if you were paid in duplicates and did not return that money, in our view, it is a mismanagement of a trust fund, a trust account, sorry. So we can't knowingly, as the RAF, perpetuate a situation where money is paid into a trust account that we say has been mismanaged. In the interest of the claimants, we then kept those monies. Of course, all the people that are now being paid are people that have paid back these monies. We then reported a number, I think it was 102 law firms, to the LPC. The LPC is taking its own time in finalizing this, so apparently it's given to different provinces. And for us, we are waiting for the LPC to finalize this matter. We are aware that there is some 560 million that still sits in our bank account that needs to go to claimants. We have agreed that we need to approach the firm to appoint a curator of some sort to pay out these monies, because clearly those law firms are never going to pay our duplicates. Of course, we will then approach the LPPF to get our money back in that line. So that's what we are doing. How severe is this backlash? It's big. It's massive. It's not coming only from the law firms. I think if we just look at the law firms alone, will be unfair. It's coming from the medical profession. They used to charge us 5 times what they charge every medical aid for these clinical procedures, because we never had what we call the rough medical tariff. And I think it was in 2013 where the Constitutional Court had ruled that we must have our own tariffs. Our predecessors did not look at that, and they did not enforce, but we last year did publish our own tariffs to bring them in line with the market. The backlash from the law firms have taken a view of fake news and all sorts of manner of things, attaching of our assets. They've even started to attach before the 180 days that we have agreed. And yes, indeed, I mean, you can't corrupt an institution without those inside. So we have let go of about 80 claims handlers so far at the Road Accident Fund, and others keep on resigning, 80 claims handlers, because of the payment issue, where they simply did not load payments, and it looks like some people were actually being given bribes for them to fast-track people in the payment process. So we made sure that everyone, that's why we want to make it transparent, that you know who we pay, so that it becomes very, very easy. On the SIU, it's something that was asked by the board, even before this board in 2018, that let's actually get the SIU to come into the space. They have started the work, and I think together with them we'll then brief the media as to how frequently will those reports come, but there are different aspects of the report, and I think it will be around September or somewhere. It just depends on how quickly they can do what they are doing, and aspects of that as promulgated, what the president has asked them to investigate. And like I say, we will continue to work closely with them. And of course, I mean, this misinformation and all the other things that they do, they harass everyone at the RAF. They even harass even the same claim handlers, because people wanted, I mean, it's a known fact what they do. It's in court papers everywhere. But we are resolute. We are resolute in that nothing is more important than making this fund sustainable. And it is our view that those that were against RAPs are against this as well. Earlier on they said, no, but you are excluding us from this issue and all that. I can only tell you my personal view that it's only a doctor that would know better who gets injured than a lawyer. Starting with a lawyer is not very helpful in doing claims, but I mean, our act says that you must, as a third party, submit through a lawyer, and that is some of the things that are going to be changed in the new amendment that we seek to do. So that's a long and short of I hope I've answered all questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We said that the questions belong to RAF, and you have seen Litualo have answered all the questions. My mandate as the executive authority, I've outlined in terms of the compact with the board, what they are expected to do. When I arrived here as a minister, there was literally a board, like an interim board. Men and women who were trying to do their best, and we appointed a new board. And Omar Astaba, who's now poached from us, working with NPA on recovering money from thieves, was the chair of this board. And then once she was taken by Advocate Batoi, we then appointed Umama Usistembi to be the chair of the board in Bogoto. And here are men and women of the board, different skills. There are others who have, resigned. We are going to reappoint. As you know, appointment is through cabinet. So this board has served us well. Among others, they did produce a clean audit. Like Letswalo have explained what is the matter before the courts, it is a matter also before the country, equally. You hear stories that says that the contingent liability of RAF will make ESCOM look like a picnic. We are attending to those things, and the board is doing exactly that. So it's unfortunate that in terms of the new accounting model, that there are those issues. But they need to be straightened up and be sorted out. So I've said to the AG, let's get out of the courts, resolve this issue. It's not a small issue. Sort it out properly. Unfortunately, RAF has got a mandate to do this mandate which I've outlined to you in terms of the compact, what they've got to do. So there is no war. It is matters that must be sorted out without trampling on each other's toes, but understanding the mandate of the AG as an important institution in executing its mandate. So I hear that 300 billion, maybe you can speak about it, that you are in a crisis because you are hiding 300 billion under the mattress. And I don't know why you are avoiding this question. Maybe I was going to probe it. So without tampering on the court process, you need to clarify that. Because South Africans were told in a big headline, RAF 300 billion in crisis. I don't know even that headline what it was saying. But you see, people who work with sources are dangerous because they believe their sources. So we don't have sources. So we must clarify because we are accountable. So we need to clarify that particular point if it is a point to be clarified. From my side, we do an oversight over the board to exercise its fiduciary duties. For every step the board takes, they do inform. Where it is necessary, we engage, and then we try to find solutions from time to time. So it's not a board, it's not a place that is on autopilot. That's not the case. So every step of the way, we are engaging with our partners, Treasury. I had a whole workshop for 2 days with Treasury and the board of RAF. So we're following the right processes in terms of our mandate. And today we're clarifying some of those issues that the board may deem it fit to clarify, and also to explain some of the things that have been distorted. But how you explain distortion is to be transparent. And that's what Letswalo have done, and the team, in terms of the board, by listing all those firms and all of that. So scandalous and malicious campaign will be exercised in the process if you are transparent, because RAF account to Parliament and so on. So there is nothing that can be done that will be in darkness. It's not possible. So I think that is why we are here today, and to engage. And even beyond this, if you still have questions, you are free to engage with RAF and the RAF board. But in terms of our mandate, we believe that we are on track. There's been remarkable progress that have been made in this place. As I come in and announced that we will be having this media briefing, there's a lot of people who want assistance directly from me as the minister, and I'm referring them to Letswalo to process them. People who have been involved in accidents. But I've said to them, don't tweet about it, just DM. Because once you tweet, the law firms are going to get you. and so on. So just DM me, mina ngizoyidlulisa. I'll give Letswalo. So if you have your sister, your brother involved in an accident who need help, we'll help you. That is it. So this institution and this particular was created exactly for that particular purpose. And that is why our campaign, Safe Roads and road maintenance, it is important. It is interconnected also to what RAF has got to achieve. Thank you very much. The chair wants to deal with the liability.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Minister. I wish we had 300 billion as an organization. We'd be very far. We would have paid all those claimants that are awaiting payment. But the issue, as the CEO has indicated, was what was an appropriate standard for the RAF as a social benefit scheme. After numerous discussions within the board, within the audit committee, within management itself, we then decided to adopt IPSAS 42. And Minister, this was not overnight. This was not a decision that was taken over one quarter. It actually had started, I think, in the 2019-2020 year. The CEO had actually even discussed this with the AG, the ASB, etc. Once the board took the decision, we then further, just to assure ourselves, requested that management goes outside and gets an independent assurance. And that's how PwC comes into the picture. Further to that, the executives also, through the internal audit, did an assurance, got an outside firm to look at this. And there was that assurance. So we had two assurance providers just to satisfy ourselves as a board that this was the proper decision and this was a proper standard to adopt. It had nothing to do with numbers. The numbers came after, when we then applied the particular IPSAS 42 standard. So I hope that deals with the issue, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, Board Chair, and CEO, for that clarification, least of all on the liabilities. And I guess that, to some degree, might clear up whatever other questions you might have had. So I don't know if there are any other questions from colleagues in the media. Okay, I see no questions. No questions there behind me. I guess maybe just for emphasis, CEO and board chair, this distinction between a social benefit fund and a liability insurance fund, I mean, not just at the level of accounting standards, but just in terms of how it raises money, I think is something that might require a bit more explicit clarification.
I think that's the part of where one deals with IFRS 4, which is accounting for insurance contracts. Simply put, RAF has no insurance contract with anyone. And if the aim was to include RAF as a as an insurer, the Insurance Act of 2017 would have included RAF. It's as simple as that. But then there are provisions in the financial supervision of the Road Accident Fund Act. I think it's number 8 or 80 of 1993. That expects the Financial Services Board, which is now the Prudential Authority, to financially supervise the Road Accident Fund and its adherence to prudential limits and all those things that are supposed to be done. But the most important one is section 2.3.3 of the directive that was issued in 2011, which specifically relates to what RAF is. You must read it. It says we are fundamentally a social security fund. So there can be, it put paid to the question of whether we're an insurer or not. Now, in 2011, there is this policy on road accident benefit scheme that has been finalized, which is the government policy on road accident benefits. And it's very clear that we are a social benefit. But the same 2.3.3 in Directive 1 that is issued by the FSB clarifies that once there is no nexus between, it says our liability or our benefits are not based on insurance principles. It's very, very clear. And it's also very clear, if you go through that directive, it will tell you that in case the Insurance Act differs or clashes with the PFMA, the RAF Act, and all that, the RAF Act will prevail, and all the others, including the PFMA, and not the Insurance Act. That is very, very clear. So we are no insurer. The other rationale that you must look at is why we used IFRS 4 in the years before. It was simply because the paragraph 10 is very clear of the GRAP on the order in which you apply standards to develop an accounting policy. It says in descending order, and it starts with the International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. If they have a standard, then you use that standard. Then there is the International Accounting Standards Board, which is the one that issues IFRS standards, which comes below the IPSAS-B. So it's very clear. So it must be very clear on how we followed that whole process. But one must know that there is no nexus between the fuel levy and the benefits we offer. So that's as simple as that. Insurance is on those bases, so we are not covered by insurance principles, so it must be clear. And I think the chair has clarified it very well that we developed an accounting policy before we applied that accounting policy to our financials. And whatever figure it spills out would be a figure that is there. Then there is an issue around the recognition criterion when you recognize this liability. The battle is whether once you have an accident, that liability is ours or not. We are saying it's not our liability. You could have rolled on your own there, which is a single car accident. There are provisions in section 17 is clear, the categories, and I think also section 19 is clear about where is RAF liable and when is RAF not going to actually pay out those benefits. It is after applying those that you can then talk about a liability, and it must be understood in that context. So I think it's fairly, in our view, a tried matter of whether we are a social benefit or insurer. We are no insurer at that. If we were insurer, we would have been closed a long time ago. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that clarification, CEO. I don't see any of our colleagues in the media, I guess, itching to maybe have a follow-up question in response to what the CEO and the board chair and the minister have shared. And I'm not sure, I guess, from my panelists, whether there would be any further remarks, Minister, board chair, CEO, DG, that we might want to share. If not, may I then suggest that, board chair, is there anything you'd like to add? Okay. If not, may I then request, I guess, from yourself, CEO, to maybe close us off, because you are our host today, or we'll ask the DG to give us some concluding remarks and thank you. DG? Ndiyabona uba kufike imibuzo, so ndicela uzosivalela, DG.
Are you also capturing the vote of thanks?
Thank you, Program Director, Honorable Minister. Thanks for political leadership that you have provided, Chair, and the rest of the board members that are present. We thank the guidance that you are providing to RAF. CEO, thank you very much for your leadership and executive management of this institution. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to the media for covering this event, also conscientizing South Africans that there's this social fund, not the insurance, that was created to make sure that we assist South Africans that unfortunately have been the victims of the road accidents. I think, in conclusion, I think the fundamental responsibility of the department is to assist RAF and all the entities within the family of transport to develop, process the regulatory framework. I remember we were finalizing one of the deliverables of RAF early this year of the medical tariff regulations that we needed to process to make sure that what the CEO is talking about gets implemented. And we can assure South Africans that as a Department of Transport, we'll continue doing just that to make sure that we provide support at a policy and legislative level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DG. I think questions are never concluded at the press conference. I think you should feel free to contact RAF. I'm not RAF. I'm the minister. So you had my mandate. So when you want questions, the Tswano here and these people and the chair, I'm running a very proper machinery, not a picnic. So